Welcome back to the program. Now, 3 years ago, Alexander Molochnikov was a rising star in Russian theatre and cinema. The writer and director worked at the Moscow Art Theatre, and his Bolshoi ballet, the Seagull, was winning awards. Then he dared to criticise Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and he was forced to flee. Now, after relocating to New York, he's bringing his production to the UK. And Alexander joins me here in the studio live now. Thank you so much, Alexander, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll talk about your journey from Russia and why you were forced to leave. But just talk us through Seagull, the true story. Just explain the title and the premise of your play.
So Seagull True Story is a true story. It's my story. It's about a director who was staging the Seagull, Chekhov's Seagull, as the war started in Ukraine, as Russia invaded Ukraine. And the cultural politics inside Russia changed a lot, and everything started being very censored. And the character of our play is making the Seagull as the war starts, so he has to redo the whole thing as the censors tell him, and then he realizes that the Seagull is basically dying and it's not his play anymore. So he flees to New York and tries to do it there, where it's also very tough and also very restricted in many ways. And basically it's a play about fighting for your own right to create freely and for your own creativity, for your own voice. Which I'm trying to do first in Russia, then in New York, now in London as well.
Yeah, so I wanted for you to lay out what the play was about, because it does depict your journey, your story, and what you fought against and what you had to take on, which we know is incredibly dangerous. Just talk us through that, because often we have this idea that Russians support Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, but actually there were many, especially in the creative space, who said no and left the country or spoke out and were punished.
Well, it's a very scary thing to face, you know, the censorship that came to Russia and generally the power that came to Russia. We have a line there that a poet who spoke out against the war was just tortured with electricity, and one of the poets who was reading on the streets was raped by a dumbbell. And, you know, when you read something like that and somebody's telling you better cut this scene, otherwise you'll have problems, it takes crazy bravery to say, no, I'm going to keep it, because it's just people are getting arrested and getting sentenced for years and years. And you really face this question, am I ready to give up my love to art and do something mediocre and do something I don't want to do, or will I fight for it with a huge risk of getting in prison? So that's basically what happens to our character. In a way, that's what happened, maybe not as directly to me, but I did get threats from the Wagner group with pictures of my parents' houses saying that I should be careful walking around there or I would slip. And it's not exactly because of the art I was doing, but because I was supporting Ukrainian social media. And immediately everything that is done and all your art is also under attack. And the great director Jenny Berkovich is now under arrest still for 7 years. She didn't have time to escape. And I always think of her. And I always think of her in the context of, could I be still working in Russia? Could I just be coming to the rehearsal room feeling that she is in prison? She's my age. We've known each other for many years. And the answer is no. That is why, just in a day like that, I mean in a few months, from a huge space at the Bolshoi Theater, golden, beautiful palace where I was auditioning opera singers, I went all the way down to an abandoned office in New York, which also is a tough journey.
It's a tough journey.
But you feel like you can do what you want. And
you felt free.
Yeah, I was working with a team of actors that now came to London, some of them, and we really did, you know, something we wanted to do. Then later I faced some stuff in America as well that is not as simple. But that's
you mean
not
you couldn't speak out about?
Well, there's a lot you can't speak about. You can't joke about many things. You can't really think about too many things. There is a lot of, it's not censorship really, it's just the culture, you know. There's the cultural change that happened in the US in the last years as well. And it's sometimes a lot you have to learn to understand how you don't make people uncomfortable. I think it's about making people uncomfortable. This is an issue, a worldwide issue today. Everybody is afraid to offend somebody. And in art, it's very hard because to be free, you can't be always afraid to offend. And where the boundary is the question. But I want to say that I think it's not just a play about a Russian director. It could be, I've had Iranian people come to the show and they loved it and they said it's about Iran. I had Chinese people who came said it's about China. I think somebody even coming from, I don't know, Liverpool to London facing the complicity of producers and the tough competition and just trying to do what they really want and not listen to the reviewers, which is so hard, to the producers, or sometimes listen but stay yourself is a tough challenge.
I've got about a minute left, Alexander, but I wanted to ask you, you talked about you being lucky enough to flee, those who are not lucky enough being imprisoned. What about those who went along with the Kremlin and the sort of demands that the Putin regime basically put on artists and directors like yourself?
Well, I mean, everybody makes their choice, and everybody has their own individual situation. Some people, you know, we don't know what they're asked. We don't know how they're tortured. We don't know what choices are set in front of them. Maybe somebody's told, we'll take your kids away, and I know those situations. Somebody adopts kids, they say, we'll take your kids back if you don't support Russia. And it's very tough. It's a huge personal choice, and I wouldn't rush to blame. I think it's a time in general where we shouldn't rush to blame. We should really try to think that everybody had their own story, and we sometimes don't know the full story. So with many people, I'm still in touch, and many people are still there, and they hate it. They hate the regime, but they try to still do something, and actually there are some plays that are still coming out there. But I think our play should come to, because it's also fun, and it's about love, and it's about home, and it's about a huge motherland that sometimes drags you back, but it's also about future, about how not to give up, not to always look in the past, but look forward.
Well, Seagull, true story in London at the moment, and congratulations, and you know,
come to the show.
Exactly, I was just going to say.
Come to the play, get your tickets.
Alexander, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.